Today, once again, we have a double Torah portion. The reason, again, to reiterate, is when there's no Jewish leap year, and we have an extra month, we have to double up so that we finish the Torah reading in accordance to the schedule. So last week we had Tazria and Mitzorah, and this week we have Acharei, which means after the death, and the second Torah portion is Kedoshim, holy. So there's a joke. When do people call you holy? After you die. During your lifetime, they'll say that ganef, that scoundrel, she was a jealous lady and all the insult. But after the person dies, Kedoshim, oh yeah, she was beloved. And it's not true. She was so liked. No, she wasn't. So there's a joke. Acharei mais, after someone passes on, you call them holy. Really, were they holy? We don't know.
Very
So
good.
anyway, so it's a double portion, and I'm going to sum up the Torah portion, and we'll talk a little bit about a few very, I think, interesting ideas from the Torah portion. So what's the Torah portion? Acharei Mos. In last week's Torah portion was a very tragic story where on the day that they inaugurate the Mishkan, the tabernacle, remember the Jews are in the desert traveling to Israel. So on the very day that they inaugurate the tabernacle, begin doing the service of God, the Kohanim, which is Aaron and his sons. Aaron and his sons, Nadav and Avihu, are very excited about the service to God, and they bring in incense that they weren't told to do, and the fire comes down from heaven and not only burns the incense, but whisks their souls out of their body, and they pass away. So on the very day that's supposed to be such a special day of the inauguration of the Mishkan, the two sons, Aaron had four sons, the two sons, Nadav and Avihu, pass away. Pass away. And remember last year we discussed the reaction of Aaron, that he was quiet. He didn't say anything. Because what could you say after such a tragedy? And you could say, wow, God is so harsh, so maybe. But you have to understand, Nadav and Avihu were Aaron's sons. They were taken to a higher standard than everyone else. The fact that they decided to do an additional service to God that wasn't asked, they pass away. This week's class, I don't want to address this because it's a whole lesson of what were their intentions, why would they do on their own, and so on. But there's a beautiful concept where the Rebbe says that sometimes somebody does a sin, but it's an unholy sin. They steal, they kill, they do other transgressions, they lie. Their transgression was a holy transgression. Their intention was to connect closer and closer to God. They wanted to kiss God. They were so excited about their relationship. But at the end of the day, this is a kind of a harsh lesson, but a lesson that you have to serve God on God's terms. You can't decide that this is the way to serve God when God doesn't tell you to serve that way. So this is, again, we're not going to really go into it right now. Maybe at the end of class if you want to hear more about it. So they wanted to kiss God. They wanted to embrace God. They got too close, so to speak, and their souls couldn't handle the light and the divine energy, and they passed away. Because God's light, God's energy is overpowering. It's like in the science fiction movies, you get too close to the sun, you get too close to those lights, you can't handle, your body it burns up. So this is what happened to them. So Acharei Mos means after the death of Aaron's son comes this Torah portion. But there's another, which we're going to discuss soon, a very deep understanding. What does it mean, Acharei? Why is the Torah portion called after? After what? She's saying after the death. But really, is that the way to call a Torah portion? Acharei, after? Like it's a little innuendo. Like I'll name the chapter of my book After. You say, after what, Freida? After. So today we're going to understand what does the Torah portion after mean. It's a very beautiful insight. And the second part of the Torah portion, the second Torah portion, is called Kedoshim, holy. God is telling the Jewish people, you could be holy like me. And you want to ask, what's holiness? What is holiness? I thought only the rabbis are holy. Only the rabbis are holy. Only the rebbitzins are holy. Not me, but the real rebbitzins. So today we're going to understand what is holiness? How are we holy? You look at yourself in the mirror like, I'm no holy roller. How am I even holy? I'm not sitting in yeshiva all day. I'm not sitting in the shul all day learning Torah and dropping coins in the tzedakah box. How am I even holy? So today
Huh.
we're going to analyze what holiness is. And you'll realize everyone here in this class today is holy. And to sum up, I'm going to read the summation. So the parsha of Acharei Mos talks about the service in the tabernacle and then the service in the Beis Hamikdash, how they brought the offerings, how they sprinkled blood on the altar, which is in itself a lot of hard to understand. What's the sprinkling of the blood? It sounds so barbaric. It sounds so ritualistic. It sounds so scary. And how you're not allowed to consume blood. In other words, even if you slaughter a kosher animal and do it the right way, you can't take a cup of blood and drink it because you feel your life will be revitalized. There's certain rules in Judaism. You're not allowed to drink blood. You're not allowed to drink blood in any form. It also talks about incest and deviant sexual relations in the Torah this week. How what's forbidden and what's permitted. What's not permitted. For example, a person, a man or woman cannot have an intimate relation with an animal. They can't have that deviant behavior. A man with a man. Alternative lifestyle. A man or woman with someone else's husband or spouse, or with your child, with your son-in-law, with your brother-in-law, with other people who are related to you. It's incest. So it gives all the rules and laws of prohibiting certain relationships, both deviant and both, like you say, what's the big deal? He wanted, I wanted. So I'm married. What's so terrible? It was consensual. We're adults.
You
These
didn't
all go ahead.
you didn't mention woman and woman.
Right. If the Torah actually, that's a very good question. The Torah mentions male and male, woman and woman is also forbidden, and we derive it from the fact that men and men cannot be together, women and also women. It's not allowed for a woman to have an intimate relationship with another woman. You know, a lesbian relationship, as they call it in America today. So the Torah very much describes all the relationships that we're not permitted to have. Very interesting, because first it's talking about offerings to God and incense and all these Yom Kippur, how the high priest went in Yom Kippur and came out and atoned for the people. And then suddenly you're reading about relationships, incest. And on Yom Kippur, the first part of the Torah reading talks about what the priests did in the temple. Because we don't have a temple now, we read about it in the Torah reading. Then you come back after the break, mincha service, and again you read the Torah. What are you reading about? How deviant relationships, all these things you're not allowed to do, like which I just mentioned. Yom Kippur, you're standing there fasting, praying all day, wearing white, non-leather shoes. Why is God saying that the second Torah reading should be talking about sexual relationships that are forbidden? Shouldn't it be another holy topic? Save that for another day, Yom Kippur. And we're going to address that question too. Why in Yom Kippur is there such a dichotomy? The first Torah reading about the holiness of the temple, the offerings, how they brought the incense, how they sprinkled the blood, blah, 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 etc. I don't want to mean blah, 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 etc., etc. And then the second Torah reading after the break, you're reading about things that are permitted in your physical, materialistic life. And also in this Torah portion, we learn about honesty in business, honor your mother and father, the sacredness of life, equality of people, whether someone's an orphan, a convert, a different race, keeping Shabbos, and love your fellow as yourself. So you see, this Torah portion has the key to becoming holy, the rules of how do you become a holy person. And then the first Torah portion talks about the service in the Beis HaMikdash, in the tabernacle, which was the mini traveling Beis HaMikdash. Just to explain again what the tabernacle was. Their traveling temple, their traveling synagogue, so to speak. So let's start with the topic of being holy, right? That's I always feel like it's very relevant. And I'm going to read Kedoshim from the second Torah portion. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the entire congregation of the children of Israel and say to them, you shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. So the Medrash says, you shall be holy. You might ask, can you be holy like me, like God? Hence, the verse continues to say, for I am holy, my holiness is far beyond your holiness. So first of all, it seems a little contradictory. God says, be holy like me. Then God says, according to the Medrash, which is the harmony of the Torah passage, the insight. How could you be holy like me? I'm God. You think you're like me? Forget about it. So does God want us to be holy? Or does God not want us to be holy? It seems like God is telling you, you think you're going to be like me? What do you think? You're a God? You're no God. So what's going on here? So question one is, how do you become holy? And now God is saying, you think you're going to be holy like me? But then God is saying, you have to be holy. I'm holy, so you're holy. Which one is it? Can't have both ways. It's like Warren Buffett says to you, you could be a billionaire like me. Really? How could I be a billionaire like you? Follow my stock moves. Yeah, I'll follow your stock moves, but I doubt I'll be a billionaire like you. So what is God telling us? What is God telling you? How could be holy? And an interesting thing is, you know how I say that you don't be a holy roller. There's a story of a very rich Jew. He was a religious Jew in the shtetl, very wealthy, and a poor man knocks on his door. He opens the door. What do you want? A guy in ripped clothes looks like he's about to faint. He says, sir, can you give me a few pennies to buy something to eat? I haven't eaten in days. No, I'm sorry. I don't give out money for food. So give me something. I don't have food for you. Give me something from your garbage at least, because if I don't eat now, I'm going to die. So the guy says, okay, you want something from my garbage? Go to my garbage. He goes to the back. There's old rotten fish that was thrown out. He's so hungry, he devours the fish and he dies because it was poison. Anyway, the rich man says to his wife, I missed a step. He gets very, very sick. So they call Hatzalah, they call the shtetl doctors, and they bring him to the hospital. And the rich man gets dressed to leave. Wife says, where are you going? I'm going to the hospital. I have to go visit somebody I met who's very sick. And he goes and visits the poor man in the hospital, and he visits him. He's so sick, Nebuch. Okay. The man does not survive because the poisoning was too severe. The next morning, his wife says, where are you going now? He says, it's a mitzvah to go to the funeral. To go to the funeral of a deceased person is a mitzvah. He goes to the funeral. The next day, again, he's getting dressed to God. His wife says, and where are you going now? He says, I'm going to pay a shiva call. It's a mitzvah. And he goes and he pays a shiva call. He comes back home. He's the happiest man. His wife says, why do you look so happy lately? He says, I did 3 mitzvahs. I visited the sick. I attended a funeral. And I paid a shiva call. I feel so good about myself. So it's a kind of a humorous joke. That's a holy roller. Person came to you for tzedakah. Give right away tzedakah. You think you're going to do more mitzvahs afterwards? So it's a little humor here. Had he done the right thing, the man would have been alive. So yeah. God is saying, you could be holy, but there's a way to be holy. You have to do it right. It's not just, okay, I'm going to do the 3 mitzvahs and that will atone for my one thing that I could have, originally done right. By the way, it's not that person had regret. Guy is riding high and what he envisions is the right thing. So God, let's go back into being holy. So being holy is following the mitzvahs of God, doing it what God says and the right way. So when God says, you can be holy just like I'm holy, but don't think you're going to be like me, is really not a contradiction. What God is saying is how you are a human being. You're not a God. Don't look in the mirror and say to yourself, I'm terrible. I'm horrible. I'll never be holy. I don't keep all the mitzvahs. I try, but it's so hard. Don't create a negative atmosphere in yourself where you doubt your holiness. You doubt your ability to connect to God. You know why? Because what God is saying, I am holy, therefore you're holy. You have me in you. You have a part of God in yourself. Says the Kabbalah and Tanya, which is Hasidic writings. That's why you could be holy. If you were a random person coming from Mars and you didn't have a part of God in you, then you could say, how could I be holy? I'm so disconnected from godliness, but you have God within you. So God is saying, because you have me in you, you can be holy. But God is not saying you could never be like me. God is saying, don't expect too much of yourself in a way that it will bring you down. I'm not asking you to be holy so that you can look in the mirror and tell everyone how terrible you are, or wake up in the morning with an inferiority complex, or never feel you're adequate and good enough. This is a very big problem in our lives. We never feel we're good enough. I'm never going to be the good wife. I'm never going to be a good friend. I'm never going to be a good CEO. We constantly look at ourselves and we put ourselves down. God is saying, no, your mantra every day should be, I am holy because God is holy and I have God within me. And make every effort to do whatever you can in the way of following the path of the mitzvahs and Torah. Tzedakah, a little prayer, lighting Shabbos candles, being compassionate, being nice, being helpful, loving your spouse, loving your children, going above and beyond what's needed of you. There's so many little things we could do every day to be holy.
Is that for Jews? Or is that a whole universal human?
Every
Good
human,
question.
very good question. So we have 613 mitzvahs, and the nations of the world have the 7 Noahite laws. So they can connect to godliness by following their 7 Noahite laws. But if you're Christian or Catholic, you're not obligated to keep kosher or Shabbos. If you're Christian or Catholic, you're not obligated to wear tzitzis and a talit and a kippah, or put on tefillin, or go to the mikvah when you want to after your menstrual cycle, or keep kosher. So they have the 7 mitzvahs and the laws of morality and ethics and so on. So that's their way, of course. They could also connect to the godly soul that they have. Everyone has a godly soul, otherwise you
But
couldn't exist.
is it
Yeah.
written in our books the way you had just said that we're connected to God, God is within us? Is that
Yes.
also part of others?
Yes. Every person has a part of God, because even a table and chair, even the inanimate, has sparks of godliness. Otherwise, it couldn't exist. How do you
But if
know?
you look at the whole population to
Yeah.
be godly, I mean, wouldn't that be the heaven on earth? Wouldn't that solve all these problems?
That's exactly how do you call it? You knock the nail on the head. How do you say that expression?
Hit the
Whatever.
nail on the head.
Yes, exactly. People say, I'm going to tie this into Mashiach because this is exactly it. I don't always say Mashiach because people think, oh, that's a Christian idea. The world was meant to be a world of love, compassion, sharing, caring, abundance,
All people.
health for all humanity. Until we repair the world by doing our little act of kindness and goodness, the world will continue, unfortunately, to go on the path it's going on, which is war, suffering, and so on.
Like
So,
Sodom and Gomorrah.
yeah. So by us, and we're calling all nations of the world, contributing to goodness and kindness and compassion, the whole world will then recognize there's one God, where many nations don't recognize there's a God. They have their own version of a God, killing, murdering, their Allah, their definition that everyone else is infidel except for them. So by saying that, Debbie, what you're actually saying is that it starts with us, by the way. Why does it start with us? Because we're chosen to be a light among the nations. People who say the chosen people, you think you're elitist. We're not elitist. We're chosen to set an example. When we're holy, which doesn't mean that you sit home all day davening and saying psalms because you can't connect to the world. Being holy means you're living in the materialistic physical world, but you're acting in a way where you're godly and holy, which is what I described: kindness, compassion, love,
But
right?
the kosher and the Shabbos is really the the elixir, the topping.
Okay, very good point. That there's three categories of mitzvahs that make us holy. One, the decrees that we don't understand. Not that we don't try to understand it, but God didn't give us a reason. Example, kosher is a decree. Decree means no reason given. Two, laws of family purity. Also, God did not say, do it because you know it's going to improve your marriage. Do it because I said so. Three, the laws of for example, the temple, the red heifer, sprinkling the ashes. Many mitzvahs that God did not tell us why, but do it anyway because God said so. Level two, things that are common sense. Don't kill, don't steal, don't cheat, don't be jealous, right?
And
Don't.
only in our writings. Only in our writings.
Well, before the Torah was given, there were writings of other nations that actually had laws of justice and morality. Yeah. There are other nations that followed laws of justice and morality, not because God told them to, because they created a proper system. But the Torah given by God became the highest form of understanding God's wisdom in this world and how to live the life that we're meant to live, which is beneficial for everybody. When you're
But the
moral,
Torah only given to the Jews.
yes,
But
we're the only ones.
The Bible with all those stories is just the history of everything.
Look at it. Okay, so the Torah, together with the oral tradition which explains the Torah, was given to the Jewish people because the other nations rejected the Torah. The 7 Noahide laws were given to all humanity. Now, when the Christians created their Bible, what do they call it? The Old Testament, the New Testament. It's not the Torah. It's their derivative that they follow. Some things in there are true and some are not exactly true, right?
Yeah.
So we have to follow the Torah because the Torah is the authentic version. That's why it has to be studied. It's the authentic version. I try to tell people not to read or study other versions of religion. First study your own. First study your own version of the Torah and see what you need to do. And you have time. You want to become a classical expert in that. Yeah.
And Moses came down with, I know this is elementary, but he came down with the 10 commandments.
Yeah,
and that was for universal for everyone, or only then the Jews too?
Only the Jews. But the 10 commandments is like the cliff notes of the Torah scroll. Moses came down with a stone that had 10 commandments engraved. Then remember, he goes back up and he writes the Torah scroll. God dictates. takes parchment and ink and comes down with the Torah scroll that was put into that ark. Now, that Torah scroll is the same Torah scroll we have in our shul. If you open up Moses, if Moses were to appear today and have a little Torah in his arms, you say, Moses, I want to see if my Torah is the same as yours. It will be exactly the same. Now, the Torah is limited to what is written in the 5 books. How do you understand an eye for an eye? How do you understand when God says in the Torah, be holy? You need the oral tradition, you need the commentaries, and you need the Talmud, which is when the great sages and prophets started to write it all down because they couldn't remember it. The people were being dispersed. So till they entered the land of Israel, and for many years after, the oral tradition, the explanation of the Torah was given over teacher to student, teacher to student. But then the Romans came, the Syrians came, the Greeks came, everybody started to kill out the Jews and destroy Jerusalem. So now the rabbis and the prophets knew the Torah will be forgotten. We're not sitting in a quiet, serene, educational environment anymore. So they began writing it all down. And that's how we have the oral tradition is now written down in the Talmud, the Medrash, the Mishnah, the Code of Jewish Law. And so you'll say, why can't a rabbi now sit down and write up his interpretation? Because the rabbis today are not the rabbis of old. They were not prophets. When they wrote down the oral tradition into the Talmud and all the Code of Jewish Law, they had prophecy. God rubber stamped those books. They weren't written down by my father's uncle's son who says I'm a rabbi. They were written by very special people. Now,
and was it restricted at that time? Like, did the other nations know that?
Yes, they knew about it. The other nations knew that the Jewish people have the Torah and the Holy Temple. That's why they wanted to destroy it. They felt, why can't you be like us? Why do you have to be special? Why do you have to go to Shul on Yom Kippur? Why do you bring an offering to God? Who's that God? We don't believe in that God. And why did the God allow it to happen? We allowed it to happen. When we had hate towards each other, the Beis HaMikdash couldn't stand it anymore. It was destroyed as a reflection of how the Jewish nation fell down and stopped fulfilling the Torah and mitzvahs like they were meant to be. That's how we came to where we are today.
That's how it feels like today, in these times.
Right. So going back to being holy means following the mitzvahs. But the mitzvahs are not only about sitting in shul and blowing shofar and fasting on Yom Kippur. The mitzvahs are about human relationships, how to deal with morality and ethics, business relationships, human relationships. So when God says, be holy because I am holy, you could either read it as a statement, right? You could read it as a statement that I'm holy, don't think you're going to be like me holy, or you could say, it's not a question mark. Can you be holy like me? Can you be like me? God says, no, you are like me. Exclamation mark, not a question mark. So in the beginning, we said God is not saying, be holy as me, because how could you be like God? But God is saying, you really can be as holy as me. That has to become your mantra. So first we analyze the passage and saying, God is saying, listen, don't worry. You're never going to be a God. I'm not asking you to be a God. I'm asking you to try your best. And now looking at it even deeper, God is not saying you can never be, can you be as holy as me? God is saying you can be as holy as me because you are part of me and I'm part of you. So if you view yourself that you're part of God, it's an exclamation point. You can be as holy as me. Now, what does this mean in practical? Because it sounds a little, it has to become your mantra. When you look in the mirror, you should say to yourself, I am holy because God is holy. I am part of God therefore I am holy. Believe in yourself. So this Torah portion, if you want to sum it up in one line, it's believe in yourself because God believes in you. Believe in yourself because you're part of God. You could be Warren Buffett because you are Warren Buffett. Not, oh, I can never be God because I'm not God. God says, yes, you can.
It's so empowering and uplifting.
It's a mantra. So when you look in the mirror, don't say I'm a loser. I'll never be good. I'll never keep mitzvahs. I can never be like that. My life is too complicated. My life is too painful. My life has too much. I'm too busy. Look in the mirror and say, I am great, but I could be greater. I am good. I could be better. Because it's negative thoughts that make us not achieve our potential. If you say to yourself all the time, I'll never be anyway, I'll never be it. So what's the point? But if you look in the mirror and say, I did good today, I will do better tomorrow because I am holy. So the whole approach here and the approach of Kabbalah and Chassidus is not that we look at a mirror and we berate ourselves. Tap into the positive potential, not the negative. I'll never be a good speaker. I'll never be a good student. I'll never be a good mother. I'll never be a good sister. I'll never be a good daughter. I'll never be a good worker. I'll never be a good employee. I'll never be a good CEO. I'll never be a good chef. I'll never be a good designer. Say, I'm good and I'll be better. So the mantra here is, I can be holy because God is holy and I'm part of God. So you could look at it as unattainable. Oh, I'm never going to be as rich as Warren Buffett. Or yes, I will be as rich as Warren Buffett. I will be as successful as so-and-so because I have it in me. I just have to reveal it. But again, our goals in life are not to be the richest of the richest or have the nicest of the nicest materialism. Our goals are much more substantial. Not that we shouldn't have a beautiful home and have our own jet and have the most beautiful designer clothes and a hairstylist that comes every day to make us up. No, gesundheit, have it, but know what your priorities are. So in no way should you think that Judaism celebrates to be a monk. You don't have to be a monk to be holy. Quite the contrary. God is saying in conclusion to this point is that because you are living in a materialistic world, in spite of that, you could be holy. And also the expectations are not unreasonable. Because sometimes you look up at your teacher or your parent, Mom, I'll never be what you want me to be. I can never live up to your expectations. I'm never going to be a doctor like Dad. I'm never going to be an engineer like my younger brother or younger sister. That's, again, putting a person down. It's saying, be who you are, being the best version of yourself. That's what the Torah is telling us also. God is not putting you in a box and saying, be like this and that's it. Within the framework of being holy, you can also use, it's so open to utilize your talents, your interests, and whatever God-given gifts you were given. And we have to recognize that. So basically, to sum up, it is when the Torah portion of Kedoshim says, be holy. Why? Because you have a part of God in yourself and you could achieve that level of holiness. How? Follow the mitzvahs in the Torah. Slowly but surely do as many or as few as you can, but the effort is what counts. And when you look at yourself in the mirror, tell yourself, I am holy because God is holy and I'm part of God. That's the mantra. That's the
Such a
mantra.
beautiful teaching for children and even
Yeah.
for us as adults, really just very empowering.
That's why, I gave a parenting class years ago and I said, what a greatest gift you give your child is telling them, I love you and thank God I got you. God gave you to me. Why do you want to mention God? because first of all, God did give you your child, but second of all, you're already establishing a relationship in your child's mind with God, that God gave you to me as a gift. You're a gift. You're a gift from God. Already you're establishing your child knowing there's a God, there's accountability. God runs the world. God gave you to me. Wow. God gave you to me, gave me to mommy. Wow. Parents are always afraid, but you know what? It's the children who have unblemished belief in God. You'll never hear a 2-year-old say, no, no, there's no God. It's the adults who have all their opinions and prejudices and gone through trials and tribulations that deny God. But children will always recognize God. You know, the kindergarten story I love to tell. The first day of school, the teacher gives out papers, and everyone draw a picture of something you like and hand it in. And everyone hands in their pictures. And there's one little girl still drawing. And the teacher says, Greta, are you done yet? She says, no, I'm not done yet. She says, so what are you drawing? She says, I'm drawing a picture of God. So the teacher says, but we don't know what God looks like. Greta says, but you'll know after I'm done. So children, they have that like openness, innocence. You'll know what God looks like after I'm done. So that's what it is. It's later on in life that we start doubting, but a child is born with an innate belief in a God, an innate belief that everything comes from God. We just have to go back to that child, the inner child, as Freud said. So Kedoshim to you is really, this Torah portion is the mission statement of every Jew. You want to be holy? Kedoshim, follow the precepts of the Torah to the best of your ability. And then you will be holy. And that's why when we take money, which is so materialistic, and we give it for charity, or we buy kosher food with it, or we utilize it for a mitzvah, like you're buying a mezuzah, you're buying tefillin, you're buying Shabbos candles, you're celebrating Yontif, buying yourself nice clothes for Yontif or to look like a mensch. It's a mitzvah. Money becomes now holy. Money is unholy, but it's holy when you utilize it for holiness. And that's everything you do. If you save your clean, beautiful outfit for Yontif, it's a mitzvah. Like I remember my mother would buy me a new dress for Pesach. I was so excited. I couldn't wait to wear it. I was a little girl. And I'd say, Ma, can I wear it Shabbos? Mommy said, no, it's for Pesach. I remember my mother telling me, no, you can't wear it yet. It's for Pesach. I said, Mommy, it's Shabbos. My mother would say, no, it's for Pesach. Really, Shabbos also should be an opportunity for a new dress. But yeah. That's why I would always tell my mother, I want to wear my Shabbos dress because I had a Shabbos dress. So it was a mitzvah to buy a Shabbos dress. Okay, anyway, memories of youth.
Mm.
And lastly, that in your attempt to be holy and you fail at times, don't be frustrated because God says you are human. You are human. I know you're human. You'll fail, pick yourself back up, keep on going. So in your desire to be holy, don't do it in a way where you feel you could never attain that level, and and so on. So now we're going backwards to we'll do a few minutes of Acharei Mos. We said, what does it mean, Acharei? Acharei Mos, after the death of the two sons, God tells Aaron what to do, and the offerings, and so on, and so on and so forth. And the laws of Yom Kippur. Remember, the high priest would go into the inner chamber. No one was allowed into the inner chamber called the Holies of Holies. On Yom Kippur, the high priest would put on a special white garment, no gold, because of the sin of the golden calf. And he would atone for the Jewish people. The Jewish people would also pray and fast, but he would atone for the Jewish nation. And then, what would he do inside? He would take the blood of the offering that he brought on Yom Kippur, and he would sprinkle the blood on the altar. echad on top, and 7 sprinkles on the bottom. And whenever you read about the blood sprinkling, you wonder, like, it sounds so, like the cannibals, witchcraft.
And why blood?
That's what I'm going to explain. And why blood? And why are we not permitted to drink blood? If they use blood in the temples, surely, why are we not? So let's start with what blood is. Blood is the lifeline of a human being. God forbid a person loses their blood, they pass away. Blood is also passion. My blood was boiling. Whenever you want to express passion, blood, my blood boiled. You think of blood surging. So blood is representative of life and passion. Yom Kippur and other times when they sprinkled the blood on the altar, it represented that blood, our life, our passion has to be utilized for the holy, for the sake of heaven. That emotional energy belongs in the realm of godliness, holiness. And that's why they sprinkled the blood. By essence, it was symbolic of a Jew saying to God, my passion, my life is for the purpose of holiness.
My passion, my
life. Because that's what blood is.
Yeah.
And also it uprooted the pagan and all those fake magic beliefs that showing that you're not allowed to use blood for ritualistic witchcraft or acts that they used to use it for. It's forbidden. So when the Torah telling us how to use the blood of the offering, by the way, God forbid human blood, we're talking about blood from a kosher animal. The Torah is telling us you have to uproot paganism and witchcraft and human sacrifice, which was very prevalent at the time. And even now you have crazy stories of cults. And blood also, what, pardon?
Crazy stories. I never thought of anything like that. And then
Even with the terrible Epstein stories, there's stories of cannibalism and drinking human blood to bring yourself eternal life, which is insane and forbidden in Jewish Torah. So, when humanity thinks it's okay to be a vampire, the Torah is saying, no, it's not okay. Blood leads to violence and cruelty and coarseness. So by forbidding blood, the Torah is giving us a discipline and a compassionate nature because, you are what you eat. That's why the Torah has in the Code of Jewish Law, you would wonder, why does the Torah Code of Jewish Law say, don't become a glutton? Why? Isn't it, if I eat kosher, I can eat as much as you want? No, there's dignity. There's dignity in life. There's dignity how you eat, when you eat. Even if you're not Jewish, what there's no manners at the table don't matter. So there's dignity. So all the rules and laws of Torah regarding food and not drinking blood and so on has to do with a person's human dignity and morality. And again, you are what you eat. But the question is a very interesting question. I want to go into this, is when it talks about the Kohen, high priest's service on the day of Yom Kippur, if you remember in Shul, I don't know if you remember how the cantor says it, part of the davening Yom Kippur is to repeat what happened in the temple, the service. It's called Avoda. The chapter on that prayer is called Avoda. And there's a beautiful tune. The cantor goes, Achas, which means he poured once. Achashtayim, he poured 2. Achashalosh, he poured 3. Achas arba, he poured 4. Achas chamesh, he poured 5. Achas sheish. Achas sheva, he poured 7. So the Kohen poured once on the upper altar and 7 on the lower altar. So the commentaries ask, why does he have to say achas 1 every time he counted? 1 and 1, 1 and 2, 1 and 3. So they say, so the Kohen shouldn't forget how his place. Sometimes you're counting, you forget where you're at. But is that an answer? What, he can't remember 7 times? It's not like he's counting 1,000 times or 500 times. He's sprinkling it 7 times. For heaven's sakes, is it so hard for the Kohen Gadol who does this all the time to remember that he's pouring 7 times? Does he have to say 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3? So Chassidus explains, this is explaining what it means after the Torah portion, after. The first sprinkling, achad, is referring to godliness, the oneness of God. And the other 7 sprinklings referring to the days of the week, the mundane. What the Kohen Gadol is doing in the temple, he's tying the one of God with the 7 days of the week, the mundane. So it doesn't count that when you're in Yom Kippur and Shul, and you're so holy, and you're fasting, and oh my gosh, I'm a holy roller. What matters is what happens after Yom Kippur. Does Yom Kippur transform your week, or doesn't it transform your week? Are you a different person because of Yom Kippur, or are you the same Yenta? So when the Kohen counts 1, 1, 1, 2, he's tying in the oneness of God to the mundane. Acharei mois. After Yom Kippur, when you go home, how are you? You're back in the real world. Yom Kippur is an oasis in time, 24 hours where we elevate ourselves. But God is saying what happens after Yom Kippur. That's why the Torah portion is called Acharei mois Kedoshim. Afterwards, you'll have to be holy. It's easy to be holy Yom Kippur. You're not eating, you're not drinking, you're not wearing gold, you're wearing white, you're not wearing leather shoes. All day you're listening to the prayers. You feel very holy, rightfully so.
My rabbi, oh,
Go ahead, Diane. Yes.
on Yom Kippur, my rabbi used to say, this year, the year interrupts this day, not the day interrupts the year. And I always
Beautiful. Yeah, that's a beautiful, yes. That the day has to impact every minute of the life. And that's where there's another interesting concept. It says that after Yom Kippur, when it's over and the high priest atoned for the Jewish people, he comes out of the Holy Holies. The code of Jewish law says, and now the high priest has to go home. Let me ask you something. You have to tell the high priest to go home and break his fast. He's not going home on his own. You have to tell a man that after his job is done, go home to your wife and kids. Why does the Torah make it a law that he goes home? To show us something very beautiful. That again, even for the high priest, when I'm in the temple, I'm the high priest. I'm a macher. I'm the CEO. I'm an elevated person. Home. I come home, my wife is going to say, take out the garbage, Yankel. Oh, could you make sandwiches for the kids? I got to take a break. The Kohen may not want to go home. He's in the Holy Temple. He's the one. Goes home, real life kicks in. He may not enjoy that. So the code of Jewish law tells him, don't be such a knacker. You did your job. Now you have to go home. You have to live the real life. Yom Kippur, we're all on a high. That's why I always love the end of Yom Kippur, when my husband blows the shofar and makes Havdalah. I love it because you're breaking your fast. It's my favorite part, right? The end. End is my favorite. That's the thing. Now you have to go home. So when the Torah makes it an obligation for the high priest to go home, the Torah is telling all of us, you're in Yom Kippur, you have a high, but now you have to go home. You have to live in the real world. Take the holiness of Yom Kippur. Take that euphoric feeling of Yom Kippur and make sure the 1 goes to the 7. Those 7 sprinklings of blood. Now the 7 days of the week, which is our regular life, go back to the 7 days of the week. The 1 cannot be on its own. The 1 must always be connected to the 7. You can't have only the mundane, and you cannot only have the spiritual high. It has to be part of each other. That's holiness. Holiness is hiding in a cave and davening 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and never doing anything in the world. That's not holiness. Holiness is in spite of the mundane world, you're holy. When everyone else is wife swapping and husband swapping, you're saying, no, I'm not swapping anything out. Why? You're such a killjoy. Why? It says in the Torah. You can't have intimacy with someone you're not married to. Oh, you're a killjoy. Yes, I'm a killjoy. I guess I am. My passion lies elsewhere. Thank you very much.
What groups are you hanging out with, Freida?
I know, but because it's Lashon Hara, but somebody was just telling me about something like that, and I'm like, what?
Yeah,
What? That's like an activity? That's an activity?
Yeah.
I guess I'm so naive.
You know what I didn't know? When Queen Esther, when she gave herself finally to save the Jewish people, that infidelity not only caused the infidelity in the marriage, but it signed her out of heaven, because it's such a bad commandment to break.
But it didn't.
I wouldn't think
It didn't, because she did it for the self-sacrifice of the Jewish people. She saved her people. Therefore, she had a place in the world to come. But in her own estimation, in her own judging herself, she said, Avadati, Avadati, lost will I be lost. She tells her husband Mordechai, but she wasn't lost. And how do you know it? Because God later said and wrote the Megillah Esther and lauded her as the heroine of the Jewish people. So
no, but like other people,
that was self-sacrifice for her people. That wasn't something, a pleasure or a passion or a desire. She thinks she wanted to be with Achashverosh. It was horrific to her. So that was something that self-sacrifice. Thank God, God doesn't ask this of any of us. But Esther was a prophetess. What she did was the utmost self-sacrifice. She saved the entire Jewish nation. We wouldn't be here today if not for her.
I didn't know that was also a decree to keep you out of heaven. Not only being an adulteress and breaking that commandment, but it keeps you you can't enter the gates.
Well, what in Jewish life, the concept of repentance and repair is very, very much part of our tradition. That's why there's reincarnation, where souls come down multiple times to repair and do things that they were meant to do in their previous life but didn't. With Esther, it's not a question whether she broke a law. She didn't. She did what she had to do, which actually for her, it was, I don't know if you want to use the word mitzvah, but mitzvah to save her people. It's like, when can you desecrate Shabbos to save a human life? Say, what, Shabbos? Yes. You can take a gun and go fight a war to save human life. Even on Shabbos, even on Yom Kippur, like Yom Kippur War is an example. Yeah. To save life, extenuating circumstances, a Jew has to do what a Jew has to do. So Esther knew this. So not only does she have a share in the world to come, she's sitting at the feet of Almighty God for her self-sacrifice. It wasn't a self-sacrifice where she got even an iota of enjoyment.
No, but what I was trying to say is I didn't know that was something like a punishment for people that may do that. In addition to breaking your marriage, your commandment, that it's against God.
Yes, but it's really one and the same, because remember, in marriage, there's three partners in the bedroom: God, the husband, and the wife. If you betray your spouse, you're betraying God, because God is a partner in that relationship. Because remember, it's one soul split, and then when you get married under the chuppah, why is the marriage ceremony called Kedoshim, sanctity? Why isn't it called chasana, wedding? Because the two halves become one, and that's a holy moment. So it's called sanctity of marriage, as opposed to just wedding or marriage. Why is it sanctity? Because you're bringing God into that relationship. The minute you omit God from the relationship by doing something immoral, unethical, then it's no longer holy, the marriage. Marriage becomes unholy now. Whereas intimacy between a married husband and wife from the chuppah is holy and a big mitzvah, Intimacy, not pregnancy, intimacy, the act of intimacy is holy in God's eyes, becomes now unholy because it's done with not with your spouse, it's with somebody else. So that's the difference. We could say, why is intimacy different? I love him too. No, if you're not married to the person, it no longer has holiness. The act becomes unholy. Holiness is dependent on it being a mitzvah from God. Where the Christians, by the way, look at intimacy as a necessary evil, the Torah lauds it as the greatest mitzvah to be intimate with your wife. So when you're intimate with your husband, you're doing a mitzvah, by the way, because the expression of love is a very powerful thing in this world. This is a very example of this Torah portion that talks about all the immoral sexual acts. Why is it? Well, should the Torah be so explicit? Like I'm blushing. Yes, because the Torah is here for human beings. The Torah, God knows how human beings act and have desires, and sometimes unhealthy desires. You think God doesn't know us? God knows us very well. God made us. You might have a desire to something do very immoral or unethical or ritualistically crazy, but you got to control your desire. No one says we don't have desires. We have desires for many things. I have a desire to steal. I have a desire to lie. I have a desire to be with someone else. No, don't give in to your desires. That's what being holy is. Control yourself. Is it easy? No. It's a challenge, especially if you have that. You know, like somebody who's not an alcoholic doesn't understand. What's the draw to vodka or scotch? Here, my bottle of scotch is on my shelf already for 2 years. I don't even look at it because you don't have that desire. But someone who does, it's very challenging. So to sum up our 2 Torah portions, is they're really connected. That holiness is not only Yom Kippur, the high priest. Holiness is you and me every day. Acharei, after Yom Kippur, after you're in an environment of holiness and you're connected to God, that's true holiness. That's when it matters. In the real world, with the real challenges of life. So when God says be holy, that's what it means. In your daily life, when you're working, cleaning, driving, trading, selling, buying, shopping, holiness is in every part of your life, wherever you are, whatever you are, wherever you are, and with whoever you are. So now you look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm a holy roller. You are.
I love it. So uplifting. Thank you so much, Freida.
So everybody, don't forget to light your Shabbos candles 18 minutes before sunset. Give a little tzedakah today after the class. We need it. Who knows what's going on with the war? There should be peace, and we should finally see the third Beis HaMikdash with Mashiach. Good
Amen.
Shabbos, everybody. Good Shabbos.
Shabbos.
Good Shabbos. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A pleasure.